with death. When hospitals become battlegrounds, when schools lie in ruins, and when the simple act of standing in a bread line becomes a death sentence, we cannot look away. The tears of mothers, the sorrow of fathers burying their children, the trauma endured by an entire generation, these are not just distant tragedies. They are a test of our shared humanity, a challenge to our collective conscience. FPCI has always been and remains steadfast in its unwavering support towards building an everlasting peace in Palestine. I, as the Vice President of FPCI Chapter O in Jakarta, am deeply honored to speak before you all today as we continue this vital mission. Before we proceed, I must emphasize that while our hearts are heavy and our emotions run deep, this forum remains a space for constructive dialogue and thoughtful exchange. There are appropriate times and places for expressing our outrage, such as demonstrations, protests, and public rallies. However, today's dialogue is dedicated to understanding, learning, and formulating practical solutions. So I kindly ask all participants to engage respectfully, to listen actively, and to channel their passion into productive discussion. I hope that today's event will yield not just thoughtful discussion, but actionable solutions and renewed commitment to peace. We are particularly privileged to have with us esteemed guests from the UN and the Asian Middle East Center for Research and Dialogue, whose expertise and insights will be invaluable in charting a path forward. So let this first step be a bold one. Let us use this platform not just for dialogue, but as a foundation for sustained action and advocacy. Let us transform our grief into action, our outrage into meaningful change, and let us work together to demand accountability, to provide aid, to amplify the voices of those who have been silenced. For in the end, we will all be judged not just by our words, but by what we did when our fellow humans needed us the most. May this dialogue serve as more than just another discussion, and may it be a catalyst for real change, a step towards justice, and a pathway to lasting peace. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Di FPCI headquarters also interview Pak Dino Patijalal, dan juga previously menemani delegasi dari Palestina juga bertemu dengan Pak Dino Patijalal ya. Jika kita bicara mengenai situasi kemanusiaan pada hari ini, per kita sedang bicara ya pada hari ini itu sudah hampir 44.000 ya korban jiwa by name by address yang tewas oleh kekejaman dan serangan yang dilakukan oleh penjajah Israel. Data ini hanyalah data yang berhasil direcord ya atau didata oleh Health Ministry di Gaza, yang artinya data-data yang tak tercatat by name by address itu lebih banyak. Bahkan kalau kita lihat dari data yang diungkap oleh lembaga kemanusiaan internasional, itu sudah hampir 140.000 korban jiwa yang tewas, yang tertimbun di reruntuhan, yang badannya hancur, yang tidak bisa teridentifikasi ya. Termasuk teman sekelas saya itu di Malaysia ya, itu Dirjen hubungan internasionalnya Kementerian Kesehatan di Gaza, kandidat PhD yang sampai sekarang itu mengalami masalah saraf ya, karena kepalanya ditembak oleh Israel, walaupun masih hidup tapi bicara sudah lambat, speech delay. Dia juga tidak begitu mengenali orang-orang yang pernah dia kenal, dan juga tidak begitu mengetahui ya situasi dia pada hari itu. Jadi ini tantangan yang pada hari ini berlangsung, dan sekitar 3 pekan lalu ya saya diundang Kemenlu ya, Kementerian Luar Negeri. There were 15 experts invited by MOFA, including CSIS, University of Indonesia, MUI, Indonesian Ulama Council, and including me as the journalist and also the Asia Middle East Center for Research and Dialogue Senior Fellow, to give a suggestion to Indonesian government, the upcoming, not only upcoming, the President Prabowo Subianto, to create the effective policy to end the genocide of Israel in Gaza Strip. Ya. Jadi pada saat itu ya kami mendorong bahwa Indonesia tidak lagi bisa sekedar melaksanakan the conventional diplomacy. We have to conduct the breakthrough diplomacy. Karena kalau kita menyandarkan hanya kepada dua kelompok kayak PBB Oki itu udah hopeless lah kita. Sudah tidak bisa kita lakukan. Mereka terjebak, UN punya case terjebak pada Dewan Keamanan PBB, ya, and then Oki juga terjebak kepada para petinggi-tinggi negara Arab yang masih memiliki hubungan yang kuat dengan Israel. So we have to make the new line, especially or making the Palestinian caucus for liberating Palestine to invite like the focal countries now, like the Spain, Ireland, Scotland, Bolivia, and other, because Aquila and distinguished guests, previously President Sukarno, you know, that we made the non-block alignment, gerakan non-block, ya. And then because we see the international platform at the time fail to encourage the colonial country to get independent. Dan Bung Karno melakukan itu karena untuk melihat terjadinya tumpulnya kekuatan-kekuatan global pada saat itu untuk memerdekakan negara-negara yang terjajah. So dengan situasi sekarang juga sama. So I encourage to the MOFA and others to make the new alignment, the Palestinian Caucus for Liberating Palestine, inviting Malaysia, Qatar, or maybe Iran and other countries, agar negara apa yang kita lakukan, diplomasi yang kita lakukan untuk Palestina itu bisa berjalan sangat efektif, ya. Karena sampai sekarang hukum internasional winner in the upcoming election in United States, because you know, when we come back see the Donald Trump policy in the Middle East, he giving everything to the Netanyahu. If you still remember that Donald Trump launched the deal of century as the base and the foundation to the Donald Trump to giving everything to the Israel to open a way to engage to the Middle East countries, and then in 2000 and pada 2020 kita bisa there are 4 countries, Middle East countries in Arabic countries making normalization with the Israel. First, United Arab Emirates, second Bahrain in the September, and then Morocco in the November, and then Sudan in the November, and Morocco in December. Yes. So I think Netanyahu ignore the ceasefire. They try to expand a war to the Lebanon, to the Iran. It's buying time to wait Donald Trump as the winner in the upcoming election. And I think Mr. Prabowo now, in the next week or the upcoming week, if you see Mr. Prabowo speech in the last day in the yesterday, he's speaking regarding the freedom of Palestine. He's speaking about the Indonesian diplomacy to support the Palestinian independence. And I think in this week, Mr. Prabowo should contact United States, Joe Biden, and Egypt and other to push the Western countries or the Israel ally to end genocide in Gaza Strips. And now we see, Alhamdulillah, I think the Minister of Foreign Affairs also appointment the vice minister, the vice minister of Foreign Affairs, especially in the Islamic world. I think it is in line with you guys, the Islamic student in the State Islamic University. I think you also concerned about the Muslim world and the international relation in the Middle East and other. I think it's progressive for the Indonesian foreign policy when we have the specific vice minister in Muslim world. And then maybe Akila, I can upload PPT just some.
Yes, of course.
Okay, thank you. people in the northern Gaza to get out from the northern Gaza and evacuate to the South Gaza. And I surprisingly that Gazanian people said that we want to stay here in the northern Gaza. Almost we will got attack authorities from the Israel, and we will die because this is our homeland, this is our host, this is our home. We don't want to be the second victim. Previously, in the Nakba in 1948, when the Palestinian people forced by Israel regime to migrate to the other area in the Palestine, and mostly they go to the Gaza. And I think it is we will see the humanitarian disaster when Israel will attack totally the northern Gaza, because in 2 weeks ago Tel Aviv launched the general plan. General plan is the big plan from the Tel Aviv, from the Netanyahu, to empty the Gaza Strip in the northern Gaza. Slowly, they will go to the center Gaza and Khan Yunis, Garbalah, and until Rafah. But Gazanian people, Palestinian people, resistance groups said that we want to stay in Gaza. We cannot come back from the homeland, from our land, and we will go to fight to the Israel regime. Because when we see the map, the dwindling Palestinian territory, you can see the change time by time gradually from the 1946, 1947, and now 2024, just 15% of the Palestinian territory. So that's why when Minister of Foreign Affairs inviting me and others to asking the panelists about the two-state solution concept, the big question is that what's the real map of the two solution concept? We want to using the pre-border 1967. We want to using the border of the Palestinian map in 1960s, 1980s, 1990s, and others. I think there is no the original map of the two-state solution concept from the MOVA perspective, or I think from the international perspective. What's the real map suggested by the international communities regarding the two-state solution concept? Where is the Palestinian territory? Where is the Israel territory? We don't know. And I think didn't start in the 7th October when we come back to the Deir Yassin massacre in 1948. I think it is just a repetition. The same episode, the same emotion, the same picture regarding many victims from the Israel, the story of the grandfather clutching of his dead grandson, just a repetition of the Israeli atrocities previously. And then when we the Bezalel Smotrich is the finance minister of the Benjamin Netanyahu. He is so controversial. He's said many statements that he agree to attack, to occupy, to kill the Gazan people or the Palestinian people. You can see Bezalel Smotrich previously he met the scenario of the Israel decisive plans. He introduced the 4 points. First, the full rejection of the two-state solution and the rights of the Palestinian for a political aspiration. So Israel full rejection. Yeah, the two-state solution concept, or giving the independence for the Palestinian people. Not only about the independence, even just the rights of Palestinians for a political aspiration, they deny. And then the full occupation of the West Bank. Through the spirit of the illegal statement as de facto occupation of the land. Ibu Retno, the former of the Minister of Indonesian Foreign Affairs, said that the problem of Palestine is not only Gaza, but also the West Bank. When you see go to the West Bank, many children try to fight the Israel, and Israel also enter many houses in the Palestinian people in the West Bank, and arrest the many parents, children, and teenagers, and sent to the jail. Until now, it's still happen. And then Palestinian under occupation will be given two options. I think it's the worst option, either to be compelled to become Israeli citizen or force them to migrate to the neighboring Arabic countries. And then those who refuse shall be dealt with the multi-power. I think it is the 4 points from the Bezalel Smotrich regarding what Israel idea. Last week, Bezalel Smotrich also sent the controversial statement because he said that Israel want to extend their occupation until Damascus in Syria. And then, because I'm journalist, previously my news agency already interviewed the former of the Israel force when involved to the second Intifada in the 2000, and when Jonathan Sapira, now he is exiled in the Europe and the Norwegia because he fight Israeli government when Israel government has a plan to genocide the Palestinian people. We can see the interview.
When and why you did quit Israeli army? I was a captain in the Israeli Air Force. I was a Black Hawk helicopter pilot, and I realized during the second Intifada that what the Israeli Air Force and the Israeli military is doing is a war crime, terrorizing a population of millions of Palestinians. And when I realized that, I decided to not just leave, but to organize other pilots that would publicly refuse to take part in these crimes. The child in Israel, you are being brought up in a very strong Zionist militaristic education. You don't know almost anything about Palestine. You don't know about the Nakba in 1948. You don't know about the ongoing oppression. Slowly, some of us, the minority, open their eyes to see the gloom reality. And to me, one of the things was when I realized that the Air Force that I'm serving in, although I was flying rescue missions, but other pilots in other squadrons were engaged in mass killing of civilians, what was called the targeted killing missions. They were sent to throw missiles and bombs in the centers of Palestinian towns. And at some point, I realized that this is an act of terrorism. I was fired from all the companies I worked for in Israel, and it was hard to, because I support the Palestinian struggle, and because I give lectures all around the world, because I'm part of the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, because I say that Israel is an apartheid state, because I say that my government and my military commanders are war. When and was fired from all the companies I worked for in Israel, and it was hard to, because I support the Palestinian struggle, and because I give lectures all around the world, because I am part of the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, because I say that Israel is an apartheid state, because I say that my government and my military commanders are war criminals.
Ya, jadi tidak mudah ya bagi kita seorang jurnalis, ya saya sendiri dari kantor agensi ini, itu untuk mewawancari mantan tentara Israel. Ya, rata-rata mereka walaupun exile, mereka tidak setuju, tapi mereka tidak semua berani speak up. Ya, karena kita tahu jaringan Israel di Eropa itu sangat besar. Ya, mereka menguasai pemerintahan, menguasai jaringan keamanan, menguasai jaringan aparat dan sebagainya. Tapi Jonathan Sapir ini akhirnya berhasil untuk kita lobby ya, untuk berbicara kepada kita tentang apa yang dialami. Dan benar kata dia, ketika saya mencoba menerbangkan helikopter, kami hanya diminta ya untuk melakukan semacam patroli, tapi di luar dugaan kata dia, ada pilot helikopter di sisi kanan saya, di sisi kiri dan sisi kanan saya, itu justru melakukan pembantaian massal. Ini case dia tahun 2000. Ya. Case dia ketika tahun 2000 itu ada namanya saat itu Intifada kedua ya, perlawanan gelombang besar-besaran orang-orang Palestina melawan Israel gitu. Dan dari kecil kata dia anak-anak Zionis itu memang tumbuh besar dengan doktrin militer Zionis ya. Mereka tidak tahu, they don't know about the Nakba, they don't know about their grandfathers still the Palestinian homeland. They don't know the government of Israel demolish many buildings in Palestine and force the Palestinian people to migrate to the Gaza and others. Itu tidak diajarkan. Ya. Makanya kalau kita melihat kenapa banyak orang-orang sekarang di Israel itu begitu sangat tegas ya, atau melawan kekuasaan, melawan masyarakat Palestina, yaitu karena hasil pendidikannya mereka. Gitu. Ya. Dan ini yang menarik, it is interesting, I think, it is the current survey conducted by the Palestinian Center for Policy Research on the 3 until 7 September. The Palestinian Center based in Ramallah, based in Palestine. We can see that the result of survey about the question, in your view, what is the best means of achieving Palestinian goals in the ending the occupation and building independent states? Mostly, there are 3 options. First, negotiation. 2, the peaceful popular resistance, and the third, the armed struggle. And mostly, we can see the almost 50% said that the Palestinian people believe that the armed struggle, the military weapon is the best action to achieve Palestinian goals, because you can see they did the negotiation, they conduct the peace popular resistance. We know that 2008 they conduct the Great March to Return, when people in Palestine calling the Palestinian diaspora outside of Palestine to return to the Gaza in the West Bank and the Jerusalem, Baitul Maqdis, tapi itu juga gagal. It has failed to try the world attention to get Palestinian independence. Ya. Nah ini kata survei, ya. Ini bukan kata saya ya. Ini survei menunjukkan mereka masih meyakini kekuatan perlawanan sebagai cara untuk melakukan kemerdekaan. Ya. Dan bahkan yang menarik ini ya, kita tahu Ismail Haniyeh ini sudah meninggal, udah gugur ya tahun Juli 2024 kemarin, tapi di survei masih menang. Uniknya. Ya, masih dimasukin di survei dan itu masih menang. Ya, ini September 2024 kan beliau sudah meninggal Juli 2024 ya, 31 Juli, tetapi dia masih mendapatkan 41% ya di survei. Dia masih unggul 41% ketimbang Mahmud Abbas yang masih hidup ya, yang dibilang doing nothing untuk membebaskan Palestina dari kolonialisme penjajah ya gitu. Nah, lalu apa sih hambatan-hambatan yang didapatkan hambatan hukum ya, proses hukum ICC? Nah, ini saya rangkum minimal ada 4 poin ya. Pertama, emang negara-negara besar itu nggak serius. Ya, negara-negara besar itu, bahkan negara Arab menurut saya, itu emang nggak serius untuk membebaskan Palestina. Mereka itu dilema. Karena kalau Palestina merdeka, yang menang tuh kelompok perjuangan yang sekarang. Yang itu tidak begitu disukai oleh kekuatan negara-negara Arab. Ini kan bisa menampar kekuatan negara Arab dan menimbulkan guncangan kebangkitan perlawanan dari masyarakat terhadap otokratisme negara-negara Arab yang ada sekarang gitu. Jadi negara-negara itu emang nggak support, US, Israel, kemudian Saudi dan lain sebagainya itu tidak support untuk menerapkan hukuman ICC terhadap penjajah ya. Kemudian ada batasan yurisdiksi. Ya, karena Israel ini bukan anggota ICC ya, dan ICC itu dia hanya bisa mencakup ya kepada individu atau kejadian di wilayah teritori Palestina. Gitu. Ya. Yang bahkan yang Israel anggap itu ya itu tidak ada gitu. Jadi ini batasan-batasan dari jurisdiksi yang itu agak sulit ya membuat proses hukum ICC itu bisa diterapkan. Kemudian ya political and diplomatic pressure, di United States, Joe Biden, Demokrat, Republik, I think they always support the Israel. Amerika Serikat ya beberapa kali melakukan veto di Dewan Keamanan PBB yang itu menghambat proses perdamaian di Palestina ya. Kemudian kesulitan mengumpulkan bukti ya. Beberapa kali kita melihat delegasi PBB atau tim investigasi dari SCC itu kan dilarang untuk masuk ke wilayahnya Palestina ataupun oleh wilayahnya Israel gitu. Jadi ini yang membuat kesulitan untuk mengumpulkan barang-barang bukti forensik ya untuk mengadili penjajah ya. And then I just want to evaluate the Jokowi's foreign policy on the Palestine. I think yes, we speak up or we make a statement on the Palestinian causes, but I think it's not enough. You can see the Minister Retno Marsudi was so active, meeting with the political leader, meeting with the many nations, and engage the journalists and attending, I think, many international platforms in the OIC, in the UN. But you can see what Mr. President Jokowi did. Yes, Jokowi, I think, was so passive on the Palestinian causes because he preferred to conduct the inward-looking foreign policy. He just want to focus regarding the increasing the economic issues in Indonesia. So that's why we cannot see Mr. President Joko Widodo attended in person in the UN General Assembly during 10 years his period. You can see, I think I just noticed in 2021 and 2020, but it just online speech because we faced the COVID-19 disaster at the time. So I think United States, Russia, and China also reconsiders the seriousness of the Indonesian government to what we call it to finish the Israel occupation in the Palestine. And then the minimal role as mediator. I ever meet with the resistance group because I'm journalist. Yes, meet with the resistance group like the Harokah Muqawamah, Islamiyah, Hamas, and others. They said, we hope actually, brother, Indonesian government's leading as a mediator to moderate a dispute between the Hamas and Fatah or other faction in Palestine. Yes, but the Indonesian response, it's so limited. It's so limited. Yes. Previously, Pak Yusuf Kala actually tried to offer to resistance group between Hamas or PLO that Indonesia ready to be a mediator like the Yusuf Kala did in the Afghanistan cause. But unfortunately, Israel attacked Iran and the leader of the resistance group died at the time. And then, yes, relying too heavily on the multilateral diplomacy in the big multilateral forum. I hope actually in Mr. Prabowo Subianto can do the door-to-door diplomacy to the United States, to the Arabic countries, to the Russia, to the China, and others, to end Palestinian cause in the Middle East. And then its prediction about the Prabowo foreign policy in the Palestinian causes. First, it is based on first our interview with the Prabowo cabinet or with the Prabowo teams focusing in the geopolitical issue and the Palestinian issue. So I collect this from my interview with the Prabowo College in Indonesia. First, government ready to send the peacekeepers to the Palestine after the war is end. Yes. They are ready giving send military, TNI, the police, and others to the Palestinian. But I think it's still need the permission from Israel. Yes, because when I asking the MOFA last week, I encourage MOFA that Mr. Prabowo should go and attend in Gaza as the president, as the symbol of the Indonesian people to give donation humanitarian aid in the Gaza. But MOFA said it's still permission from Israel. And then it is my interview with the Gelora Party. Gelora Party is the part of the coalition of Prabowo Subianto. Now Anies Mata, the chairman of Gelora Party, as the vice minister of foreign affairs. That they ready to give a place to the resistance group in Palestinian like Hamas in Jakarta. I don't know. Indonesian government want to build the Hamas office in Indonesia, like in Malaysia. Like Malaysia is semi-official actually, not official. The official, the headquarters of the resistance group in Doha now, not in Malaysia. But they ready to give the place that Hamas and PLO has the equal position in Indonesia. And then Mr. Prabowo also ready to attend in person in the UN General Assembly when ini acara tahunan dari PBB. Ya, tiap tahun kita udah absen 10 tahun dan Pak Prabowo bersiap untuk memutus sejarah itu. He wants to make the big story and then untuk hadir langsung di sidang PBB. And then accept the victims, Gaza victim in Israel war to get treatment in Indonesia. Malaysia did. Malaysia also accept, I think, 100 patient from Gaza during the Israel war to get treatment in the Kuala Lumpur. And then Indonesia also still support the two-state solution concept. Even we know there is the real map. I don't know. I don't see any the clear map from the Indonesia, from the OIC regarding the border or regarding the territory of the Palestinian people, which agreed by the Israel. And then, ini last, yes, it is the forum from the MOFA inviting speakers, experts, academicians, activists, and others to get many suggestions from the civilians from Indonesia to make the effective foreign policy on the Palestinian cause. Ya. Dan terakhir, saya ingin memutar video reflektif bagi kita semua. Ini ilustrasi 16 tahun ke depan, 2040, di mana umur genosida yang dilakukan oleh penjajah ya sudah berusia 16 tahun. Tapi apa yang terjadi di dunia itu di 16 tahun mendatang kita bisa simak.
Good afternoon, Seattle. Welcome to your afternoon newscast. We're here to bring you stories that matter most. Today marks the 16th anniversary of the tragic genocide. Commemorations are being held all around the world.
네, 아무것도 안 하셨어요. Was hast du während des Völkermords gemacht, Großvater? Tout était devant vos yeux. Did you just watch it? Says Mama, they never looked him upside down.
Ya, terakhir teman-teman, we should not wait the same question coming from us in the upcoming 16 years later. Pertanyaan itu juga bisa datang pada hari ini kepada kita semua. Apa yang sudah kita lakukan untuk Palestina dan Gaza pada hari ini. Ya, bahkan kalau kita bicara tentang konsep Islam, pertanyaan itu juga mungkin akan ditanyakan Allah sama kita di akhirat nanti. Maka susunlah jawaban itu dari sekarang, agar kita bisa berdiri dengan kuat tegak, menjawab pertanyaan itu di dunia maupun di akhirat nanti. Itu tergantung kita semua, tapi para pendiri bangsa kita sudah merumuskan konstitusi yang sangat jelas bahwa kemerdekaan adalah hak segala bangsa. Itu saja yang saya sampaikan, Mbak Akila dan teman-teman semuanya. Thank you very much. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. What a pleasant presentation dari Pak Pizaro. Kita sudah banyak melihat bagaimana perkembangan situasi dari konflik ini dan apa saja yang menjadi tantangan dan hambatan dalam konflik ini ya. Without further ado, the Q&A will be held at the end of the discussions, and Miklos Gaspar. Mr. Miklos Gaspar currently serves as the director of the UN Information Center for Indonesia and the Philippines, a role he has held since September 2022. And not only that, he has more than 25 years of experience in public information, communication, and international relations, both at the United Nations and externals. And his UN experience includes being the chief of digital media and public information materials at the International Atomic Energy Agency and chief of communications and event at the International Trade Center. Before joining the UN in 2009, Mr. Gaspar has held several senior-level positions in the private sector, including as editor-in-chief of the Budapest Business Journal and chief operating officer and vice president of Prosplex LLC. Mr. Gaspar holds a doctoral degree in linguistics from the IAPOS Loran University in Budapest. Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Miklos.
Hello, Mbak Akila. Nice to meet you.
Hello.
Good to see everybody.
Yeah. How are you today,
I'm
sir?
very well, thank you. Selamat siang to everyone.
Okay, selamat siang, Pak. I don't know if you remember this, but I've seen you before at the International Culture Fair a month ago, and you were there as a keynote speaker for the opening speech, right? And yeah, it's so nice to see you here as a speaker.
Yeah, I was hoping that we actually meet, but you guys then scheduled this to be Zoom, so we'll meet.
Yeah. Unfortunately, because of the some inconvenience, there's unexpected situation, so we moved the room to the Zoom.
Okay, so I'm on. I can start.
Okay. We will hear from Mr. Miklos Gaspar, who will provide a global perspective and discuss the international community response to this humanitarian crisis. But first, for the opening questions, because you are the head of UNIC, I think it will be appropriate to ask about your specialist field first. What is the specific roles have the United Nations and its affiliated bodies like UNSC or UNHRC played in addressing the humanitarian crisis in Palestine? I think we start from there.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Very nice to meet you all. Excellent previous speaker. Some of the points I'll be making, he's already made, so I will keep those short. I have prepared a short presentation which talks about the humanitarian as well as the legal aspects of this crisis and what the United Nations has done and has been trying to do. So in the course of that, I'll answer this question that you've just asked. Is that okay? Can I share my screen to show you guys this?
Yeah.
With airstrikes into the densely populated Gaza Strip.
Okay, I understand you cannot see the video?
Yeah, and my screen is not playing yet.
Oh, I wonder why that is. Okay. It says I'm screen sharing. Okay, sorry. So let me stop sharing and I start sharing again. Sorry, you would think that in 2 years of COVID we learned how to do this, but maybe not.
It's all right. It's happened to all of us.
Yeah, thankfully. Okay, how about now? Can you see it now?
Yeah, it's on the screen, but it's not playing yet.
Yeah, wow. Yes.
Okay.
Now, yes. Now good? Playing?
Let me begin by repeating my utter condemnation of the abhorrent attacks by Hamas. I reiterate my call to immediately cease these attacks and release all hostages.
Israeli forces have responded with.
Okay, so look, is it okay? How about this? I understand it's still not playing, that I send you the link in the chat and then
Maybe someone.
and then someone else, can someone else try to share?
Okay. I think that will do.
Okay, let's see. Then it turns out. Right, find where you are.
We
Sorry.
need stories. We need stories to understand ourselves.
I need to stop sharing. Okay. Chat. Okay. Akira, could you try?
Okay, let me try it for a second.
Okay, I will try to share the screen now.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify, is this the right video? Iran is so hard to defeat?
Mr. Miklos, I think your audio is inaudible. Is this the right one? Sorry.
No. It's actually a very good video also, but that's not the one I
Okay.
Hold on. Okay, here. Okay, Mas, try this one, Hamza.
Can you see the screen now?
Yes, thank you. We can't hear though.
I'm sorry, Hamza. I think the audio is inaudible.
Though we can read what's on the screen, perhaps we can just do it like this. We
Okay,
can
okay.
read the subtitles.
All right. I think probably that because you mute
The
your.
shops are going to run out of basic
How about that? Can you hear the sound now?
Yes. Thank you, God.
food items within days.
Famine in the northern part of Gaza is imminent.
We have the supplies, the teams, and the plans. What we don't have is access.
We need every single crossing into Gaza opening.
Incubators need fuel, they need electricity.
UNRWA is facing a deliberate and concerted campaign to undermine its operations.
I wrote to the Security Council invoking Article 99 because we are at the breaking point.
I'm just 19. My life started now and it finished.
Hospitals need to keep running and to remain safe havens.
Shifa Hospital was the core of the health system in Gaza Strip.
There are over 1 million people who are sick. Now there's polio.
I once again demand the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages.
Release of the hostages?
Immediate
and unconditional.
All the hostages
must be released.
In Eastern Khan Yunis, there were new evacuation orders issued last night.
9 of every 10 people in Gaza Strip have been internally displaced at least once, if not up to 10 times.
There was active shooting in the area. Our car has been hit by some bullets, so we're going to keep going.
We're trying our best to get at the most critical patients here.
The UN is totally committed to stay and deliver for the people of Gaza.
Thank you. So this was sort of what I wanted to show by way of introduction. And then now let me try to share my screen again so that I can talk to some of these points a bit more. Okay. So first, on some of the legal issues regarding the situation in Gaza. So there have been several UN resolutions condemning what's going on in different ways. For instance, the latest General Assembly resolution, General Assembly can only issue advisory opinions on matters like this. It was on the International Court of Justice, on the legal consequences arising from Israel's policies and practices in Palestine, and from the illegality of Israel's continued occupation of Palestine. This was just a few days ago, in fact. Then there have been, resolutions of the Security Council, noting with great consequences what's going on now in Lebanon. But also, after many, many failed attempts, there was a UN Security Council resolution that even the US did not object to, about the situation in Palestine, condemning, or in Gaza, condemning the move to Israel. And then, of course, the Human Rights Council, sort of every year, passes a resolution on the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination. And that's, again happened this year. So what happens after these resolutions are passed is another matter. That the UN, as the previous speaker said, does not have the mandate to enforce, any of its resolutions in any country. That's up to member states to enforce, UN resolutions. So moving on to another legal aspect of this topic that relates to the International Court of Justice in The Hague, which has opined or issued opinions on the issue of Palestine, and is still looking into several cases, including one, most famously, that South Africa launched against Israel. So in January, they put in place provisional measures. In this case, that was started by South Africa. For instance, it ordered Israel, let me read, in accordance with its obligations under the Genocide Convention, to take all measures within its power in relation to Palestinians in Gaza to prevent the commission of acts within the scope of Article 2 of the Convention, including killing, causing serious bodily or mental harm, deliberately inflict conditions of life calculated to bring about the group destruction, and imposing measures intended to prevent births. So the Secretary General of the UN, for instance, he noted the court's instruction to Israel to ensure with immediate effect that its military does not commit any of these acts. As we all know, this has had no impact. Also, the International Criminal Court ordered Israel to ensure the provision of urgently needed basic services and humanitarian assistance to address the adverse conditions of the life faced by Palestinians in Gaza. In this area, there has been some progress. You know, until a few months ago, there were no borders opened under a lot of international pressure, including, well, from the US, but also the UN. Israel did allow some aid. Of course, not enough, but, you know, more than before. Now, the International Court of Justice also emphasized that all parties to the conflict are bound by international humanitarian law and called for the immediate and unconditional release of the hostages abducted during the attack on Israel on the 7th of October and held since then. The Secretary General then noted that all parties, you know, must abide by the decision of the court. So this is sort of what I wanted to say by way of introduction in terms of the legalities of the conflict, whereas we all know, you know, most of the decisions have not been able to be enforced. The UN's impact has been a lot more palpable when it comes to humanitarian issues, humanitarian support to Palestine, as you also saw in the video. I mean, the situation is horrible. 9 out of every 10 people are displaced in Gaza. As one of the speakers said in the video, some of them have been displaced 10 times in over 1 year. So the UN and its partners are working as effectively as they are allowed in an active, and they're able to in an active war zone. And as you know, of the many people killed, more than 220 have been UN staff. Gaza is the most dangerous place now to be a child in the world, but also to be UN staff. So the UN, the Secretary General has several times said, continues to be deeply concerned about the situation, particularly in northern Gaza, where Israeli authorities have once again ordered more than 400,000 people to move south. And crossing points into northern Gaza have been largely closed for both humanitarian and commercial supplies again. In August, the last month for which I found data, 46% of humanitarian movements in Gaza were either denied or impeded by Israel. The Secretary General has repeatedly said that humanitarian agencies led by UNRWA must be able to move food and other supplies safely and via all possible routes and crossings into and throughout every part of Gaza. It's a very sad statistics that 80% of households in Gaza lack access to safe and clean drinking water. Frankly, looking at those pictures that we see every day, I wonder where the other 19% are, even. The World Food Programme has released that 96% of the population in Gaza face high levels of acute food insecurity, and that no food has entered the territory since the 1st of October. And of course, there's no local food production now. And so the UN has called for the restarting of food production in some ways, which of course would start with there being peace and the cleaning of rubble in order to help prevent famine and malnutrition. When it comes to healthcare, only 17 of 36 hospitals are functional, and the backlog of health supplies and equipment waiting to enter Gaza continues to grow due to all the obstacles that are related to preventing the entry of aid. In terms of education, even if there were peace tomorrow, more than 84% of schools would require full reconstruction or significant rehabilitation before they could start working. Perhaps a less known fact, which I must say I also only discovered in preparation for this little talk, even prior to the current crisis, more than half, 54% of the men in Gaza showed signs of anxiety and depression. This is the highest recorded across the Middle East. And obviously, it would have only worsened during the crisis. So this is where we are in terms of humanitarian work, where, you know, the UN and its partners are doing what they can and what they are allowed, continuously behind the scenes and also openly requesting access. I'd like to talk briefly about the human rights situation. Already mentioned that according to the UN's Independent International Commission of Inquiry on the Occupied Palestinian Territory, they found that Israel has perpetrated a concerted policy to destroy Gaza's healthcare system as part of a broader assault on Gaza, committing war crimes and crimes against humanity. The UN has noted several times that Israeli authorities are responsible for war crimes and crimes against humanity committed in Gaza since October 7th. They've also noted that Palestinian armed groups are responsible for war crimes committed in Israel. So more specifically, they said that Israeli authorities are responsible for war crimes, including starvation and method of warfare, and crimes against humanity, such as extermination, gender persecution targeting Palestinian men and boys, murder, forcible transfer and torture, and inhuman and cruel treatment were committed. And then the last point I want to touch upon is to do with this mis and disinformation, which is something that perhaps talked about a lot less. There's a lot of disinformation regarding the situation in Israel, as well as in Palestine. There was an excellent video clip that the previous speaker showed us about the the Air Force pilot who escaped from Israel. I mean, we see disinformation on both sides. We see disinformation the world over, not just now, but also before the conflict. Specifically, when it comes to what's been happening since October 7th, the UN has called repeatedly on all leaders to speak out against anti-Semitism, anti-Muslim bigotry, and hate speech of all kinds, which only reinforce discrimination, stigma, and marginalization. Dehumanizing language that incites violence is never acceptable. Also, the fact that international journalists are denied entry to Gaza allows disinformation and false narratives to flourish. So the UN stands firmly against any decision to roll back freedom of the press. Journalists and media professionals must be protected. Media equipment, offices, and studios must not be the target of attacks and reprisals, which, of course, for now is still the case. So that is sort of what I prepared, but I want to leave you with one question as we start the Q&A. Perhaps less known, but Indonesia is also in breach of a UN resolution, actually several UN resolutions regarding the Middle East. And I'd like you guys to tell me, which UN resolution that is. So it's not just Israel, even Indonesia is in breach of UN resolutions regarding the situation in the Middle East. All right, so let me stop sharing here and back to you, Akila.
All right. Thank you for the presentation. It's such a insightful presentations. Now we're going to move to the Q&A sessions. And I see some of the participants who is enthusiasts and already asked the question here in the chat box. And yeah, if there's any questions that you want to ask directly, you can do it using the raise hand feature, or you can directly send it to the chat box.
So perhaps if I may then, to break the ice, anybody knows how Israel is in breach of UN resolutions regarding the Middle East?
Okay.
Those are not Israel, Indonesia, sorry. Israel,
Yeah, if there's anyone know, you can just open your mic. I think my fellow foreign policy community maybe know. I think Kak Teguh or Kak Hamzah can answer the questions.
It seems like nobody knows about that. for the moment. We haven't done much. We haven't done that detail of research, I guess.
Okay, look, no problem. So, Indonesia has not recognized Israel, right? And there have been UN resolutions calling for every country to recognize Israel. Yeah. As the other speaker mentioned, Indonesia sometimes talks about having a role in mediation or peacekeeper or whatever it is. The parties have to accept that, have to accept you as a mediator or as a peacekeeper. And that's probably hard to do when in over, 60 years, or 70 years actually, one of the parties has not been recognized by Indonesia. So I just, this is obviously not the biggest problem in the world right now. But just want to say that, I just wanted to point this out. I mean, we all know Indonesia hasn't recognized Israel, but that it means it's in breach of a UN resolution regarding the Middle East.
Okay, Kataku raised hand. You can open the mic.
Okay, actually, I have a question for the boss speaker. Actually, like I want to know both of your perspective. The previous speaker says is from the Islamic perspective, and the list are from the Campbell also. Okay. From my question is like how all your thoughts on the new elected government will act on the Indonesian effort to the Palestinian. Like we all know that Indonesian mostly openly stays like a mediator, and we always act like we need to do something on the Palestine effort. But I have a very skepticism on this side because, like Miklos said here, like Indonesia haven't accept Israel or haven't recognized Israel as a nation, and it's hard to be a mediator to to be a mediator if you haven't recognized the bloc country. Is maybe some bias if you only acknowledge Palestine but not acknowledge the Israel and become mediator for the problem. And I think my question is how your thoughts on this problem. For Mr. Pizaro or Miklos can answer this. Thank you very much.
Okay. First, Mr. Pizaro maybe want to ask this question. I want to answer this question.
Okay, thank you, Mas Teguh Muhammad. Thank you for your question regarding the upcoming foreign policy under Minister Sugiono. Yeah, Sugiono was the member of the Commission 1 in the Parliament, focusing issues on intelligence, the foreign policy, defense, and others. Why Mr. Prabowo choose Sugiono as the foreign minister, not coming from the career diplomat? First, Sugiono is the golden boy of Prabowo. Yes, he is the golden boy of Prabowo, graduate from the Taruna Nusantara, having the military background, and then coming from of the special forces, military, Kopassus, and then it is first regarding the connection or relation Sugiono itself with the Mr. Prabowo. The second one is the Prabowo doesn't want to adopt the foreign policy in Presiden Joko Widodo era, where Mr. Retno Marsudi is leading the foreign policy in international issue. Because Mr. Prabowo, he has a good point of view. He has good information and good perspective on the geopolitics. And then that's why Mr. Prabowo doesn't want to see the twin sun, ya, matahari kembar. Ya. Dia tidak mau seperti matahari kembar. Ya. Jadi Mr. Prabowo itself, ya, Prabowo want to lead the foreign policy issue. Jadi yang dipilih makanya Sugiono yang lebih muda, ya, bukan senior. Karena Pak Prabowo sendiri ingin dia yang memimpin Kementerian Luar Negeri itu sendiri dalam tanda kutip. Yeah, like you can see in the Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim in the Malaysia, he is the Prime Minister and Finance Minister as well. Yeah, Anwar Ibrahim, because previously Anwar Ibrahim was the Finance Minister in 1990s era in Malaysia. Yeah, and then I think yes, I also asking not only in the foreign ministry, also in the many portfolio ministry that they have many vice minister, Kemenq, the finance minister, chair by Ibu Sri Mulyani, but it also has the three vice of the finance minister, Pak Anggito Abimanyu, lalu and then Thomas Juandono. I forget the last ya. But yes, it is. I think itu pemborosan sebenarnya karena terlalu banyak seperti itu. But I just want to highlight that why Mr. Prabowo appoint Sugiono. First, Mr. Prabowo want to lead the foreign policy, and even prior to taking office in a few days ago, when Mr. Prabowo was the defense minister, he visited 20 countries, 20 countries. Yeah. Visited 20 countries after General Commission state that Mr. Prabowo as the president-elect. Yeah. He visited China, Korea, Japan, Serbia, Prancis, Turkey, Arab Saudi, Philippines, Thailand, and others. Yes. So I think it's look like the second foreign minister for Mr. Joko Widodo in the last period. That's all. Maybe I hope ini bisa memuaskan jawabannya.
Okay, thank you, Pak Pizaro. And then we move on to the second speaker, Pak Miklos, Mr. Miklos.
Yes, thank you to Pak Pizaro for his interesting answer also, because, I mean, the UN does not comment on the structure or the expected policies of a government. What I'd like to just point out, how central the Palestinian issue was to the outgoing sort of foreign ministry setup. Just one little anecdote. During Ramadan, there was an iftar given to ambassadors, accredited to Indonesia. And Ibu Retno gave a speech, maybe 15 minutes. I was there. 14 of the 15 minutes was about Palestine. So it was a hugely defining issue for her and for the previous administration, also in international fora. Indonesia spoke out very, very forcefully in defense of Palestine and the rights of the Palestinian people to self-determination. We'll see how or what, as Mr. Pizaro said, to what extent the new government will. I mean, the goals are similar. I'm sure they've spoken about that, but what kind of methods, they will employ.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't tell you more about this.
Akila, I just want to add the answer. Yeah.
Okay.
And yes, I think yes, Mr. Prabowo also engaged in the international issue. Maybe Mr. Miklos, Mr. Prabowo also will more engage to the UN after sworn in, because Mr. Prabowo has the background coming from the military education in the United States, and then after Reformasi era, Mr. Prabowo also stay in the Jordan, so that's why he has a good connection with the King Abdullah in Jordania. And when the period of the Mr. Prabowo as the defense minister, you can see, I think it's not common for the defense ministry also speak up, also giving the statement, also attend the international forum to speak about in the Indonesian foreign policy. When the Shangri-La Forum, Mr. Prabowo giving the proposal, he said that as the solution to end the Ukraine and Russia war, I think it's the traditional coming from the MOFA, not from the defense minister. And at that time, as a journalist, it was controversial at that time. And then Mr. Foreign Affairs, when I asked about the act of the Mr. Prabowo in the Shangri-La Forum and for the another international forum, MOFA cannot give answer regarding the Mr. Prabowo did. So I think he has the posture, he has the vision of the geopolitics. That's why I think Mr. Prabowo, that's why Mr. Prabowo choose the three deputy of the foreign minister, Pak Harfas Arga Seno, and then Armanata Nasir. Armanata Nasir is our diplomat permanent mission in the New York, and then plus Mr. Anies Mata as the chairman of the Gelora Party, which focusing on the Islamic world. Yeah, I think it is we can see, and I think in the ASEAN, Mr. Prabowo will be firm than Jokowi in responding the Myanmar issues or the South Chinese conflicts and other because prior to taking office, Mr. Prabowo met with the president of Filipina, Bongbong Marcos. You know, the consultant of the Bongbong Marcos, the same consultant to the Prabowo in the campaign. With Gemoy dancing and others, it's coming from the consultant of the Bongbong Marcos in the Philippines, and Bongbong Marcos succeeds to get as a winner in the election. I think it is Akila and Mas Teguh Muhammad.
Okay, thank you for the answer from both speakers. Now we'll move on to the next questions from Zhang Hidayat Ismail. What are the main objectives or roles that neighboring Egypt regarding current conditions of Gaza, or any hopes in this regard? How about Jordan and Lebanon as well? And what can Indonesia Gov do neglecting them all? Okay, I think this question is for Mr. Pizaro, but Mr. Miklos can answer it also.
Okay, regarding the role of the Egypt in Palestinian cause, you know, Egypt or Mesir and Israel signed the peace treaty in 1917. Yeah. After the years war between both countries in amid a tension of Middle East. So I think that's following this treaty, Egypt received more, I think, $billion from the United States, military weapon, financial aid, and other to keep Egypt in the status quo as a good neighbor for Israel. That's why I think, according to my opinion, I think yes, Egypt has a role as the host of the ceasefire between resistance group and Israel, and host many international issues to decrease the tension of the Middle East. But the role of the Egypt, it's so limited as the following the agreement between the Egypt and Israel in the peace treaty in 1917. But I think Mesir also has a role as the mediator, not only mediator between resistance groups, yeah, with the Israel, also the dispute between the internal group in the Palestine. Weeks ago, as I know, Palestine Liberation Organization, created by Yasser Arafat, is the moderate faction in the Palestine, meet with the Hamas in the Cairo to continue the peace talk between both of the group, to make the one Palestine, one government in Palestine. Because I think it's there is the two government now in Palestine actually. First, the PLO lead in West Bank, and the capital in the Ramallah, and Hamas in the Gaza. Actually, 2 or 3 months ago, Beijing as a host to mediate PLO and other faction with the Hamas. But when I interview with the resistance group or and the PLO member, they just said that it is just the moral commitment for the Palestinian group or faction to work together, to go together amid the Gaza attacks from the Israel. But when we see the implementation of the result of the meeting between the PLO and the resistance group, I think we still need until the Gaza war is end. Yeah, because the goal of the commitment between the two groups is the conduct the new election. You know, the last election in Palestine held in 2006. At the time, Hamas appears as the winner, but after that, United States didn't recognize and Israel didn't recognize the result of the election because Hamas as a winner. And then until now, we can see the divided Palestinian between the Gaza and the West Bank. But I hope I also communicate with the some faction in Palestine. It is interesting. They said me that I hope the new government in Indonesia wants to be host the peace deal between the resistance group, Hamas, PLO in Jakarta. Because you see, it is the Palestinian or the Palestinian political member said to me, we can see we cannot hope anymore to the Arabic countries to leading the Palestinian cause. Now we looking for the Indonesian. You can see in Indonesia from the province level until the kecamatan or village level, you can see many demonstrate the peace rally supporting the Palestinian. Even in my village, the small village in the Tasikmalaya, you can see mass demonstration happen in the small village in Tasikmalaya, in Jogja, and others. So we encourage the Mr. Prabowo or Mr. Sugiono maybe working together to the Malaysia as the host to the peace deal between the manufacturing in Palestinian. Okay, that's it. The question is the or Jordan, Lebanon. I think Lebanon military is so weak. That's why Hezbollah as the hero at the Lebanon. Because when we compare the power of the Hezbollah and or the military Lebanon, memang Hezbollah is strong. They have the strong power to attack Israel or conflict with Israel. But we can see the progress or development of the war. Apalagi ya kita lihat ya Israel sekarang udah ancam. Israel wants to attack Iran, and previously Netanyahu said Israel serious to take the retaliation following the Iran attack to the Tel Aviv. That's okay. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Pak Pizaro. And Mr. Miklos, do you have any say to this matter?
Yes, I have a couple of things in terms of answering the question, but also then in relation to what Pak Pizaro said. So first of all, in terms of Egypt and Jordan, they play a very, very important role since it is through them that most of the aid gets to Gaza. And Egypt and Jordan have been very, very supportive of the role of the UN and the UN's partners in, letting through this aid. This is stuck on their territory, for a long time. I mean, Egypt and Pizaro didn't mention this, but they've also allowed the evacuation of Palestinians who were sick and treated them in hospitals. So they are playing a conducive role. it's of course very, very difficult to live next to such a war, right? I mean, the impact it has on your own people, on your own economy. Now, Lebanon is a different case. Now Lebanon has also been sucked into the conflict. As we know, Lebanon has not had, okay, I'm not sure what the politically correct way of putting this is, but has not really had a functioning government for a long time, right? It has interim governments. And this is where I'd like to actually disagree with something that Pizaro said, which is he called Hezbollah a hero. I don't know in what ways Hezbollah is a hero. I've had time to quickly look up a UN resolution from 2004, UN Security Council, calls for the disbanding and disarmament of all Lebanese and non-Lebanese militias. While it does not explicitly name Hezbollah, the resolution has been widely interpreted as targeting Hezbollah's armed wing and other non-state militias operating in Lebanon. We've not talked about this in this session, but this whole UNIFIL, right, filled with Indonesian peacekeepers, their main role is supposed to be to support the Lebanese army in disarming militias, which of course means Hezbollah. And that hasn't happened. I mean, Lebanon has a government, it has a military, and as you said, that military is so weak, and which is the chicken, which is the egg, I'm not sure, but so there is, a militia that's been condemned, found as a terrorist organization, not just by the West, but also by the GCC and the Arab League. Certainly I would refrain from the use of the word heroes in this. Of course, there's lots of regional dynamics with Iran, whatever, but just I wanted to comment on that. There was a second part of the question, which I think I can't, but Pizaro, perhaps you can answer, which I think was very interesting, which is that according to the person asking us the question, the Indonesian government is neglecting Jordan and Egypt. I mean, Lebanon, look, I think Lebanon is really a different matter. That's yeah. Anyway, that's my addition to this. Thank you, Attila.
Okay, thank you. I think there is some bold statement about the hero style. Okay, and then
yes, it's not coming from me actually, Mr. Miklos.
Okay.
This is according to the Lebanese people,
Yeah.
not from me, from the Lebanese people. He said that Hezbollah is more powerful than the Lebanese military.
Right, but powerful is not the same as hero. Absolutely more powerful. I mean,
yes.
Right.
Yes. As a journalist, I also asking the Lebanese people, and they said I actually not fully agree about that statement, Ms. Miklos. But Lebanese people, maybe half the Lebanese people or some societies said the Hezbollah as the hero and the more powerful than Lebanese military.
Okay, gentlemen, I think we can agree to disagree about this matter. And we're going to move on to the next questions. From Arinato Oya, in what specific way does internal Palestinian politics, including the long-standing divide between Hamas and Fatah, weaken efforts to present a unified front in negotiation with Israel and the international community? How does this internal discord affect both of the perceptions of Palestine's legitimacy on the global stage and the ability to create a coherent strategy for statehood? And lastly, what is the obstacle to this political fragmentation for achieving cohesive governance within the Palestinian territories, and how does it hinder the delivery of stability for the Palestinian people? I think this question is for both of the speaker. Which one of you would like to speak first?
Well, let me start quickly, because as you can expect, I can't say much about this, but certainly, I mean, if we look through history, when a country is divided or has divided government, it would be weaker than a country with a unified government. So that would be true. But Pizaro made a very important point, earlier, which is that there have not been, I mean, of course, there cannot be elections now when there's a war, but there have not been elections for a long time in the Palestinian territories. And when there were elections, the results were, not fully fully recognized. So I think, there are many people who would say governance issues within Palestine that have, played a role in their negotiating leverage. Though, if I can pick another little fight on language with Pizaro, then I would say he keeps talking about the Israeli regime and the Netanyahu regime, right? Regime is a term we use for illegitimate governments. Whatever one may think of Netanyahu and the current Israeli government's policies on anything, they are a democratically elected government. That's not the case with anything in Palestine, either in the Gaza or on the West Bank. Again, I'm not supporting, I'm not saying they're right or wrong. It's just, the language regime we normally use to talk about dictators. Yeah. Okay, but over to you. You can give a real good answer to this question, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Miklos. I think we can hear the answer from Mr. Pizaro now.
Yes, previously I already answered Akila regarding this question. Regarding the effect divided government or divided group in the Palestinian to the effort to free Palestine. But now I see in the Palestinian there is the good initiative from the resistance group or Hamas or the PLO to making communication to the united government and others. And we can see in the Beijing forum or the Beijing meeting, the representative of the Hamas and the PLO coming together, speak together, and try to making the moral commitment to conduct the new election or the new unity government like that. Because in the Palestinian Authority, now mostly consisting of the PLO members, some professional and others. And we hope that Jakarta or the Mr. Prabowo can make the meeting like in the Beijing in Indonesia. I said before from the resistance group or the PLO members want to Jakarta as the mercusuar of want to the powerful, strong to lead the Palestinian cause in the international forum. I think it's the good progress for the Indonesia, for the Indonesian government, and then for the Palestinian group, they speak together and they want to discussion in the one table. I think it is, and we hope that Indonesian government now, I don't know in UIN, in University of Indonesia or University Pertahanan Indonesia, now giving the more scholarship to the Palestinian people or the Palestinian student. As I know, in the University Pertahanan Indonesia for the bachelor degree, it opens to the Palestinian student to get the bachelor degree, master degree, PhD degree in Indonesia, also in the same campuses in University Muhammadiyah or University in Islam Indonesia, or I think also in the Ministry of the Religious Affairs, also open scholarship to Indonesia. I hope we can increase this scholarship as the Indonesian rule, as the mediator, as the country to support the freedom of Palestine.
Okay, thank you for the answer, both of the speakers. I think we already have the last questions. It will be for Mr. Miklos Gaspar. What would be the potential reactions of the UN after a severe attack on UN, the UNIFIL, by the Israel military recently, and moreover accusing that the UNIFIL as the Hezbollah shield?
Okay, thank you for that question. So it's not just a potential reaction, but there has been reaction from the UN regarding the attacks on UNIFIL. And you guys will remember that in the first attack, it was 2 Indonesian peacekeepers who were wounded. There have been several attacks since. So the Secretary General and also the Undersecretary General in charge of peacekeeping condemned using the strongest terms this attack. Frankly, any attack against UN staff or UN peacekeepers is against international law. And even when there is a war, there are still legal requirements, such as the respect of international law, even during war. So, UNIFIL continues to stay in place, and it's taking all measures to ensure the protection of its peacekeepers and whoever takes refuge in their compound. We've not talked about Lebanon here, but, another huge humanitarian crisis, which has been condemned by the UN in many ways. Apparently, over 1 million people, so 1/5 of the population, has been displaced. While I must say, 60,000 people in Israel have also been displaced. So, due to shootings from Hezbollah, and certainly, UNIFIL is not a shield of Hezbollah. Where these accusations come from, if I may interpret some of these, is because UNIFIL's mandate, part of its mandate, is to support a peace process from 4 years ago, when Israel withdrew from southern Lebanon, and that the Lebanese army take its place, right? So, but again, UN peacekeepers or UN organizations have only as strong of a mandate as given to them by the Security Council or the General Assembly or whoever is the decision-making governance body. UNIFIL does not have the mandate to go out and find Hezbollah positions and clean them up. It never had that. Its role is to support the Lebanese government to do that, and that's where its mandate ends. It's not the first time when there is a UN peacekeeping mission with a limited mandate finding itself not being able to really intervene in a conflict, and it's sad that it is, but the UN, like anybody else, is only allowed to do what's in its mandate. Yeah. Thank you.
I think that will be very clear to answer the questions. I think, can we have some times left? Do we have some time left? Yeah? Okay. Last question, a real last question from Kak Hamzat.
Okay, I apologize, Akila, for this a little bit, it may be a bit long. Yeah, I would like to talk a bit about the role of the United States in this whole conflict, in this whole thing about Israel and Palestine. I don't know if you've heard of AIPAC, American Israel Public Affairs Committee. This organization has been around for quite a while, if I'm not wrong. It's been about since like after the Second World War, I think around the 50s, 1950s. And I just want to know, especially to Mr. Miklos Gaspar, as the representative for UN in this event. Can you perhaps tell us the truth about the actual role of AIPAC in influencing decisions made in the United Nations? Because despite it's indirect, because even though it's not directly, AIPAC does not have any direct relations to the United Nations, but it does have direct relations with the United States. It is based in the United States, and it affects the foreign policy process of the United States towards the United Nations. Perhaps you can shed some light about that. Thank you, Mr. Gaspar.
Thank you, Hamza. Look, like in the case of Indonesia, in the case of the United States, also the UN will not comment on internal mechanisms of certain countries. And I'm not trying to evade the question, I'll go a bit further, but look, the UN would not comment on a lobby group. I mean, AIPAC is essentially a lobby group, probably the most powerful pro-Israeli lobby group, but not the only one in the US. I go further, the UN wouldn't even comment on a member state's foreign policy, right? The extent to which that may be influenced by a lobby group or what it is. What I'd like to talk about is the current setup of the UN decision-making mechanisms, including, most importantly, the Security Council, right? The Security Council was created 80 years ago, and the power structures reflect the power structures of 80 years ago. Right, as you all know, the veto-wielding members of the Security Councils are the countries that were the victors of the Second World War, at which point, you know, more than 2/3 of the current UN member states, including Indonesia, didn't even yet exist as countries. The Secretary General has called numerous times for a reform of the UN decision, certain UN and multilateral decision-making bodies, including of the Security Council. I mean, perhaps more so than you know, the Palestine conflict we are talking about. If we look at the war in Ukraine, that's an even clearer example where one of the belligerent parties is a member of the Security Council. Obviously, they are going to veto any decision that's related to that war. So at the Pact of the Future, which was passed about exactly a month ago in New York during the Summit of the Future, there is for the first time since the 1960s written commitment from the UN to look into the way the Security Council works. They've not made any decisions now, but at least they are putting in place a multilateral process where this is going to be, reviewed. Austria and Kuwait were the two countries leading this very difficult negotiating process to agree on language. Now, nobody expects that to mean that tomorrow there'll be no veto power in the Security Council. But, you know, it's going to probably lead to steps whereby there may be more permanent members in the Security Council. Even if they don't have veto power, at least they would have more of a say, so that the decisions that we, the international community and Security Council takes, are more reflective of the world today. Look, I realize I didn't tell you about IPAC, but I hope in some ways this is still a helpful answer.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Mr. Miklos. Because that is the last question, I think we could end this sessions. I really appreciate both of the speakers giving us meaningful discussions and the interactive and insightful Q&A sessions. But before we end, let me summarize some of the points that have been made during the sessions and during the Q&A. Okay. So the dynamics between Israel and Palestine conflict have gathered attention from around the world, but the response from the global community remains slightly
recording stopped.
As the solutions and recommendations cannot be implemented fully due to lack of authority. However, the international actors such as the UN and Indonesia remain strongly condemns all of the occupations and genocide that are undergoing in Gaza. Indonesia itself already has some plans to support the Palestine, such as the readiness to send military aid and give place to resistance groups like Hamas. As for the UN, the solutions proposed by the UN cannot be implemented fully because the UN itself doesn't have to enforce any resolutions that have been made. However, the UN still holds a very important role in supporting the Palestinians in this current conflict, like providing food productions to revitalize schools, and the UN will continue to do what they can and what they're allowed to do. And I hope the talk can be beneficial and broaden your point of view regarding these issues and not be confused by the hoax that has been everywhere in this matter. And that's all for me. I will give the floor back to the MC. Thank you.